What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty Shannon White here with another series of global perspective content coming at you. My man Shannon White, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. We're actually getting a little rain off and on because we've been really dry the last month or two. So it's good. So you won't hear me complaining about the rain right now.
Well, I'm the opposite. We're getting a bit of sunshine, which is great. Not that it's out right now when we're recording this, but getting a bit of sunshine here in Australia, which is a pleasant surprise because I feel like I live in the rainy, United Kingdom. That's not why we live in Australia. But look, on today, this segment, we wanted to talk about, of the Steelers global perspective, we want to talk about guys that are on the roster bubble at the moment. Heading into training camp, there's a lot of guys fighting for position. If I say to you, Shannon, if you had to make a bet right now on who the most cuttable person is on the Steelers roster, who is that player?
The most cuttable. To me, I automatically think about defense. And I think of Leal or Loudermilk, and I also think of Kazee.
Now, that's interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, because I think Leal and Loudermilk are on a lot of people's name on the top of their tongue. I know why you're probably saying Kazee from a show that we did, I think 6 to 8 weeks ago. But I think let's go into Leal and Loudermilk, and then I'd love to hear a bit more about Kazee, because I think if you're going to share the same perspective you shared briefly on another show, I really like it, and I don't think people are thinking that way about Kazee.
Well, with Kazee, I think Ryan Watts is really going to. I think he's better than people are giving him credit for, and I think that he's going to be considered in the slot, depending on matchups, and I think he will be, groomed to eventually be a safety as well. He's a little bit of a hybrid. And because of his special teams value, which I believe is going to be incredibly high as a gunner, I think that he has more value than Kazee.
Yeah.
He has more versatility than Kazee. He's bigger. He's longer. And Kazee now has developed a reputation that will follow him, as we've seen with guys like James Harrison and others, former Steelers, that they're going to be watching everything, and if it's a borderline judgment call on a hit, they're going to throw a 15-yard roughing penalty. And especially after him being suspended for the last half of last year.
Yeah.
So I think Kazee is. They just brought in McCaviage.
Yep.
And he's basically a special team specialist.
Yep.
They got Harmon Killebrew, who made the Pro Bowl, as a special team specialist. He will be special teams captain.
Yep.
Killebrew, basically, though, is strong safety depth at most. And McCaviage, you do not want to see him on defense because he really doesn't offer much to your base defense. So,
well, and even the Bills, like when they had linebacker issues last year and they were getting guys off the couch, as I said in the video I put out about Matakevich, like they didn't call on Matakevich. They barely called on Matakevich. So, like, he played 2% of their defensive snaps.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. How many guys are going to be able to make the roster based solely on special teams ability?
Yeah.
But obviously they signed him for a reason. Well, because he doesn't offer a lot on special teams. And whereas Ryan Watts does, and Killebrew does, and Killebrew could, and so I just think that makes Kazee's hold on a roster spot tenuous at best.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the way the Steelers are building this team, like you talk about that, and Tomlin talks about the avatars and the big size. Like Ryan Watts fits that category of what they want to do. Kazee is not that guy. Kazee would be lucky to be 180 pounds, right? He's like 5'8", 10, I think. But again, you just got a guy undrafted that's pretty much the same height, weight, and looks like he's just as physical in Beanie Bishop, right? So not even like for Kazi, it's a bit like, well, what are you doing? Like it's going to be not what are you doing, but it's like hard for him to find this spot outside of special teams. And then where he's been able to really like be able to make an impact is the fact that Minka's had to play this linebacker strong safety hybrid role. But then they've just gone and brought in Deshaun Elliott, right? Who can also play in the slot as well. So I agree with you. And I think Kazi saves him like, I think it's 1.8 or 2 million on the salary cap, just off the top of my head without pulling it up. So there's benefit there. There's real benefit there for the Steelers if they move him on in that respect. But then I also think, well, he's, there wasn't a lot of offers for him when he joined the Steelers, and then they re-signed him. There was a bit more interest, but then the year he had last year, perhaps you can get him on the practice squad. And if you've got Kazi on the practice squad, that could be incredible depth, if you got him there.
Yeah. I think that Cam Sutton's return after the 8-game suspension will also fill a lot of what Kazee offers in experience, ability to play deep safety, deep center field. Sutton is last year in Pittsburgh. I think he had 2 big interceptions.
He did.
One to end that Raiders game, and he was playing deep center. Yeah. And so when they get him back, and then for that second part of the year, even if Kazee, he would definitely be in danger of losing his spot at that point.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting one on Sutton as well. Not to steer us off topic, but like that 8-game suspension, I'm going to comment on the off-field stuff. Obviously, we don't abide by any of that.
Yes.
Part of me doesn't want to see him in the black and gold for that reason. But like, I wonder about this 8 games. To me, with everything that he's been through, I'm not saying he can't. He's a pro. He's proven guy. He's played in the NFL. But for me, he's got an uphill battle to spend 8 games out and come back and make an impact on this team. And so I actually think his NFL future beyond this season could be quite problematic for Cam Sutton. So he has got a real challenge ahead of him. But because after 8 games, if there's an injury early on in the season and suddenly, Trice or Rush are playing really, really well and Beanie Bishop showing out, or Ryan Watts, who we've talked about, like I think Sutton, Sutton may not be the direct choice as the third cornerback. That's what I'm saying. I think
I wholeheartedly agree that I'm hoping by the time his 8-game suspension is up and he can return, that the Steelers have already solidified the slot position.
Yep.
I'd like to see a guy like Beanie Bishop be basically the full-time slot, whereas you can move in a Deshaun Elliott or Ryan Watts or even a Peyton Wilson at times, depending on matchups. What if the opponent's using size or a tight end out of the slot, you could easily handle that. If you don't want Beanie matching up with, say, Andrews for the Ravens, let's say.
No.
But I think that if Sutton comes back, he'll be jumping on a moving train.
Yeah.
The only thing that gives me some hope that he can contribute is the fact that Tomlin says he's the smartest defensive player, or one of, that he's ever had. And he knows the system already. He's very familiar, even though there's a lot of new faces at places. But the Steelers have obviously went for much larger corners, much longer corners, and faster corners.
Yep.
Because all these guys can run. Yeah. I mean, the slowest of the bunch is probably Ryan Watson. He was a 4.5, 4.51 guy. And so, I mean, these guys can all run. They're faster than Sutton. They're faster than Hilton. They're faster than Levi Wallace. People that we've seen back there in the Steelers secondary for a while. So, but where Sutton's value will almost be a little bit like a Willie Gay. As that, can he become that guy that gives you spot minutes because he's so smart and versatile in that he can play about any responsibility, any package you want to put together. He's not a liability.
Yeah, that's as I said, like he's proven guy too. He's played well when called upon for the Steelers. I look at all things being equal, and I'm like, you miss 8 games, like, and that's the other thing too is like the 8 games is going to hit you like then he's coming back after a bye. Like the Steelers have got a lot of young guys in that room, and anyway, we'll see what's to come.
I think the expectations will be low though.
Oh, I mean, I'm especially not paying much for him.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that nobody's after those 8 games, nobody's going, oh man, we can't wait to get Sutton back because he's going to save us because we're struggling in the slot. I hope that's not the case.
100%. Back to Leal and Loudermilk. To close out this segment. There are people that will be more team Leal, more team Loudermilk. Leal has been really disappointing for me. And it's one of those instances where he fell down the draft boards. He was probably overrated when people were calling him a top 10 pick anyway, but fell rapidly down the draft boards. Steelers get him in the 3rd round, I think. 3rd round.
3rd.
And something in my head was like 4th round, but that was because when we selected Dan Moore and Buddy Johnson out of Texas A&M. So he falls down the draft boards there. Struggles to really do one thing or the other. He's a tweener. He's probably more suited to a 4-4-3 scheme, which is why when they drafted him, I actually wondered in over a 12-month period whether they were going to have a couple of 4-3 sets that they wanted to start employing. Then on Loudermilk's case, you've got a guy that they traded back into a draft for 6'7", I think he is, or very, very high 6'6" in terms of height. He's a big guy. Has played okay for certain minutes, but in his respect, he always looks like he's 3 seconds off making a big play. Mm-hmm. Like he's always, you know what I mean? Like he's there. He's like in the shot of the camera, but he's not there. I don't know. Like I've said Loudermilk's a practice squad guy for several years, and if you get 2 or 3 games out of him a year when push comes to shove, that's great. Leal, I don't really see the value in the spot he takes. I'd rather than cutting him and bring back a Marcus Golden type. But who do you like? But I just talked through some pros and cons. Who do you, if you were Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin, which one are you keeping and why? And would you put the other one that you're not keeping on the practice squad, or would you just say thanks for coming, appreciate your time, good luck?
Well, they had the gravedigger, Hargraves.
Yeah.
And I always said the guy could be great. He's just in the wrong defense. He needs to be in a 4-3. Not that he wasn't effective with the Steelers. He was. And he was good. Yep. But you could tell he could be great if he was given the right scheme. Well, he left, and, the rest is history. He's Pro Bowl level in Philly and in San Francisco. Well, with Leal, as you said, when he was drafted, I think he was like 280 at the combine or 270 something. I'm like, well, he's too small to be a defensive lineman for the Steelers, and he's really too big to be a edge. And he's not explosive.
No.
And for an edge, you need that unless you're like an incredible edge, as a run stopper. But I don't see that either. He's out there, but he really doesn't make an impact.
Yeah.
So I think that in a 4-3, he would be more effective, but I still don't think he'll ever have the explosiveness to be a consistent pass rusher.
Yeah, I agree.
So then you look at Loudermilk, who, I took a lot of criticism because I criticized that move to get him because I had him as an undrafted free agent, and I'll stand by that until the day I die. I do not think they needed to draft him at all.
No.
And Loudermilk is a huge man. He looks the part. But if you watch, I think somebody should have put him at tackle, offensive tackle, earlier in his college career.
Yeah.
Because he's really good at absorbing the action.
Yeah.
And he's strong. And he can absorb the action. And he moves halfway decent. But he is a reactionary player. He's not a creator. He doesn't make things happen. He doesn't make plays. He waits till it comes near him. And if he does make a play, he falls off the block and gets a hold of the guy. I mean, he's just not an impactful player at all. And I don't see that desire or that hunger to make a play. It's like, I'm out here. I didn't embarrass myself good. Now I can go back to the sidelines. There's a heart. There's a passion in any of these guys, if you watch, to make the play.
Yeah, he's very passive.
And I've just never seen it with Loudermilk.
Yeah, he's very passive. So which one would you cut and which one would you keep?
Honestly, because I don't know if you'll get anything out of either one of them at this point, because they're both cut candidates. I think they need to cut them both. I think Lau needs a new home. He needs a new team and a new scheme. And like I said, Loudermilk, this will be his 4th year.
Yeah.
Unless he surprises us all and finds a fire and a passion, it's same with the Okorafor. If you remember, I always said Chuks Okorafor just didn't have the nasty in him.
Yep.
And that's why we can never accept the fact that he never lived up to his talent. He stayed mid. Just and I think that the only thing that might help Loudermilk is a change of scenery, and maybe that'll light a fire in him. But honestly, I'm not real excited about having either one of them, to be honest.
Agree. And then look, they might well both be gone. But we'll have to see as training camp progresses and they head to their roster cut down. With that, that's going to wrap up this segment of the Steelers Global Perspective. Stay tuned for more from us over the weekend.